It is 2 p.m., so I am just now starting my wonderful, beautiful afternoon. It's sunny, and we can go on a walk. hmm no, are we actually live right now? I'm trying to look at my thing. If we can get a one in the description. I don't know why I'm not seeing it because I keep refreshing the page. Oh, there it is. Okay, it took like 10,000 years for that to happen. Okay, sorry about that. Like one thing I do want to kind of say before we get started. I've said it before. I just want to say it again. Lloyd and I are about attacking ideas. We're about kind of attacking people who hold stupid ideas as truthfulness, but we're more so just about having the discussion on an intellectual level. This may be offensive. It will be offensive, I think, to a lot of people. Um, but just want you guys to know kind of where we're coming from. We're just coming from a point of truth, a point of facts that we believe to be true. My mind can personally be changed. It's been changed many times in the past. Lloyd, I'm sure the same is true for you. But there's just been it's a very charged topic, right? It's a very poignant topic. It's something that's been going on, for a while, but it obviously there was 4,070 rockets shot into or towards Israel. So I think we're going to look into why, where, how it started. But you're going to give us a really good background of kind of the history of Palestine and what kinds of stuff that they have been involved with. What is their ideology? What is driving their decision-making skills as a country, as a nation, as an occupied space, whatever you want to call it. But actually, before we say that, I remember I was talking to you yesterday, Lloyd. You were kind of talking about um, how much of a small percentage of Palestinians actually want unruly unrest. I don't remember what your stats were. Can you remember what that was? Mhm. Right. Um, hey buddy, they say they can't hear you. Yeah, that's what they say. Fix your mic, no sound from Lloyd. What's funny then is so we're gonna have to like redo the whole thing because you gave like a great opening speech.
Okay,
And
testing. Now, do I have audio?
yeah,
Yes.
can anyone read lips, says Gerald.
I'm
Can't
so
hear Lloyd. Did you guys get to hear me? I'm sorry. So basically it
guys.
started and you saw Lloyd's lips moving and then you get to hear me jump in and start babbling on about who
Okay.
knows what.
Well, let me just start over, guys. I'm sorry about that. My audio is coming through now. I have no idea. Either it's my mistake, but everything works out before I test, and then of course YouTube also gives me grief. Okay, guys, sorry about that. My audio is coming through now. I do apologize, but I am known for making stupid. In fact, I joked with AT before we started that I would probably do something wrong.
You
Okay,
did.
guys,
I
welcome
was there.
everyone. Thank you. We're here to talk about the Palestinian occupation of Israel. Now, no matter how we phrase this, no matter what we say, we're going to offend somebody, right? That said, I want to talk about things that are off the beaten track. I'm going to look at aspects of history, things that are less known, things that are not discussed, and things that the Islamic side of the argument will definitely want to hide, and that the Fakistinian side of the argument will definitely want to keep secret. Right, so we're going to look a little bit at their ideology, some of their motives, some of the history, but things that are not the common perspective. All right, so guys, let's maybe just jump in to save time since we were late. At, anything you want to add before we go?
No, I mean I'm very interested in these 18 questions that you have asked people that no one has answered. So
Right.
I'm excited to see what these answers are. Now I Googled it myself and I pretty much answered them all, but I wanted to see what you have.
Okay, guys, so this is my database that I'm using, and I just want to let you know that this database is available to every one of you. So, guys, if you go into the description, you will see this link, which is a OneNote link. And what I have here, this is, you can go to the topics tab and you will see everything that we're going to discuss is right here. So you can actually download this, you can view it in a browser, you can view it on your phone, you can view it on your desktop. Everything that we're about to discuss is available to you. So all my references, all my notes, everything is right here, as you can see. So it'll be these first few tabs that I will be working with, right? This is available to you in the browser, and I'll be using my original OneNote database. So if you want to have a look, go for it. Okay, guys, and thanks for the mods. Thanks for everyone for being here, for the support. And yeah, okay, guys, so my opening statement is this. The Fakistinians claim that the ancient Philistines, right, the Falastini, are their ancestors, right? Now, note that, of course, in Arabic, you don't have the letter P, right? So it's the Falastini. So they claim that the Philistines are their ancestors. Now, it is true that they take their name from the tribe of Goliath, but do they share DNA? Now, the answer to that is no. No, they do not. The Philistines were a seafaring people who came from Crete, which is the largest of the Greek islands. The
Hmm.
Philistines got their name from the Hebrew word plishtim, which means invaders. Palestine thus means invaded land. So the
Hmm.
Jews said, our land has been invaded by invaders. Now, why should we call it that? So when the Philistines invaded Israel in the 12th century BC, they stayed close to the Mediterranean coast as a seafaring nation. They never settled in Jerusalem or any cities that are claimed today by the Palestinians, the Fakistinians. By the 7th century, the Philistines had been assimilated by the Assyrians. The Assyrians were then conquered by the Babylonians, and then they disappeared from the pages of history. And our experts today say that no one alive could prove Philistine lineage. They've died out. So if the
Hmm.
Fakistinians want to claim that they are of the lineage of the Philistines, they would have to acknowledge that their ancestral homeland is not Israel, but the Greek island of Crete.
Hmm.
Your comment, AT.
Yeah, so I had a guy come on my channel the other day who was actually originally from Palestine, and he actually kind of gave that same thing. He said most of the people that he grew up with and knew were of Greek heritage. So I just think that's a very like I don't think a lot of people know that, and really before that I didn't really realize that either. So keep on
Right.
going, brother.
Yeah, and also do understand that the children of Israel, the Bani Israel, are mentioned like 44 times in the Quran. Of course, Palestine is not mentioned once. Right. Now, I want to highlight this. Now, I have been asking people for the last few weeks since the conflict broke out again, these 18 questions, and all I get is evasions and evasions and evasions, right? And it's obviously no surprise because they cannot answer these questions. These are 18 questions I'll run by you. If Palestine is a country, if Hamasistan is a country, we should be able to answer a few basic questions. When was Hamasistan founded and by whom? What were its borders? What was its capital? What were its major cities? Now, if you go through a list of questions like this for major countries of the world who have a history, you should be able to identify their history. So, what was the underlying economy of Palestine made of? What form did its government have? Can you name at least one Palestinian leader before Arafat? Was Palestine ever recognized by a country whose existence at one time or another leaves no room for interpretation? What was the language of this state of Palestine that goes back to ancient history? What was the most common religion in the state of Palestine, which goes back to ancient history? What was the name of its currency? Choose any date. What was the exchange rate of the Palestinian currency, this whatever the currency was, against the US dollar, the German euro, right? The British pound, the Japanese yen, or whatever, you decide, right? Does this hold up historically? Since there's no such country today, what caused its destruction and when did it happen, right? So people mourn the slow decline of the former proud country. So what exactly was the state proud of? And, let us know. Let me just right. Now, are the people that we all call Palestinians mistakenly something other than generic Arabs gathered from everywhere or thrown out of the Arab world? Because genetically, these are Jordanians, Egyptians, and Saudi Arabians. right? So they are just Arabs from the general region. Do they
Hmm.
have a genuine ethnic identity that gives them a right for self-determination? Why hadn't they ever tried to gain independence until after they suffered a crushing defeat in the Six-Day War? Why nothing prior to that? How else do you explain the refusal? And we've got an absolute refusal by Egypt and Jordan to take back the West Bank and Gaza in a dignified manner. Why do they keep their borders closed? Why don't people want more Palestinians? And I've asked, please give me answers, and I get nothing but excuses. No one wants to tell me why. Okay, your
Hmm.
thoughts, AT?
Well, I mean, I'm just looking forward to hearing your actual answers of it. When I was kind of just researching it, it surprised me a little bit because of my friends who I've talked to with the news media typically has to say about the Palestinians. It would just seem as if it were common knowledge that this was a land that had a people that were obviously living there. They were governing themselves to some certain extent, right? And you're asking questions about what was when did they mint their own money, right? What was the
Yep.
exchange rate? All those kinds of things. And I think that's something that we all need to go, okay, maybe what we think we know, we don't know. And double check what we're saying here, guys. I mean, go
Yep.
research this yourself.
Yep.
So yeah, just go ahead, man. I
Yeah,
want to
just
see.
just off the top of my head, I want to bring up something, right? I want to go briefly. I'm going to jump. I'll be looking at a whole bunch of different things that you guys have probably never heard of. In 1925, a brief guide to the Al Haram Al Sharif in Jerusalem was published by the Supreme Muslim Council, and it says in this book, this site is one of the oldest in the world. Its sanctity dates from the earliest and perhaps from prehistoric times. Its identity with the site of Solomon's Temple, as you know, the Solomon's Temple is Hindu, as I recall, right, AT? Right?
Yeah, no, it was I think it was Scientology. Wasn't it the
Scientology.
Church of Scientology that founded that?
So hold on. Are you saying what's that? What's that? Tom Cruise built it?
Yeah, Tom Cruise was
Okay,
there.
yeah. So its
No,
identity.
it was Ancient Aliens. My bad. It
Okay,
was the Ancient Aliens that did that.
you're right. So its identity with the site of Solomon's Temple is beyond dispute. This too is the spot, according to universal belief, on which David built there an altar unto the Lord and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. Now, the Supreme Muslim Council of Jerusalem at the time was headed by Nazi ally, Nazi general, Nazi and Nazi supporter Haj Amin al Husseini, who was Hitler's friend, stayed in Berlin for 3 years as a guest of Hitler, volunteered for the Nazi army, became a general in the Nazi army, raised 600,000 Muslims to fight for the Nazi army, and of course also founded and led the largest Nazi SS, or Death's Head unit, right, of 30,000 troops called the Hanjar, and they were all Muslims. Just so, by the way. Okay, this is the book published by the Supreme Muslim Council in 1925, and here's the original as we go through, and you'll see here, and it says here, its identity with the site of Solomon's Temple is beyond dispute. Now, it also states here, for the purposes of this guide, which confines itself to the Muslim period, the starting point is the year 637 AD. In that year, the Caliph Omar occupied Jerusalem, and one of his first acts was to repair the site. Okay? Because this is the place to which the Prophet was one night miraculously translated, supposedly. Right? From this rock had the Prophet, according to tradition, transcended to heaven on his horse. Now, there's no evidence that he went on a horse, it was Burak, which was a thing. But understand, they say here that they conquered, he occupied. In other words, so this was Jewish land. This was not, so they admit here very clearly that this was invaded and conquered by Muslims, right? And if this is the site, and if the site of the Islamic Al-Aqsa Mosque or whatever is Solomon's Temple, then doesn't that mean it's Jewish? And shouldn't it belong to the Jews? 80? Am I wrong in my
Well, I mean,
logic?
the argument that they're going to give is the fact that they're going to say, as everybody in history ever was actually a Muslim to begin with. So they're going to say that it was built to their god Allah, and that he, just so happened to be a Jewish person, but really he was a Muslim because he worshiped the one God and took his shahada, right? How did they do shahada before Muhammad?
There's not even a Shahada in the Quran.
Oh.
Which page is it
Hmm.
on? Right. So let's have a look. Right. Let's. I want to run through a bunch of things. Right. So just I want to throw out some facts that don't get discussed, things that we need to talk about because the Islamic narrative is obviously very, very tightly controlled. And they're pushing this narrative very hard, and we need to look at cracks in it. So there's no P in Arabic. That's why the Arab Muslim armies that conquered Persia, or Parsi, the language of Persia, became Farsi,
Mm.
right? That's why you have the Falastini and not the Palestini. So the central core of the Persian nation is the ancient province of Pars. Why is this important? So let's think about it. In Arabic, one literally cannot say Palestine. The Palestinians cannot even refer to themselves in their mother tongue as Palestinians because there's no such thing as a language called Palestinian. There never was. They call themselves Falastini. They speak Arabic and there's no P in Arabic.
Mm.
There's, of course, an English word Palestine, which is a corruption of the ancient Roman word Palestina. We'll get to
Hmm.
that in a moment, which was in turn a corruption of the word Philistia, the land of the Philistines, a people who had disappeared from history hundreds of years before the Romans even got to the area with their armies. The Romans deliberately renamed the Jewish kingdom with the name of the ancient Old Testament enemies of the Jews to insult them. Okay? In other words, Palestine and the Palestinians are words made up exclusively for the purpose of conducting propaganda in the West. Palestine is a fictitious country, and the Palestinians are a fictitious people. They are Arabs.
So you
Now,
were saying that they made up the word, the Romans made up the word literally just to be offensive to the Jewish people?
yes,
Wow. Okay.
right. Now, back in 1943, for instance, there was not one person who self-identified as a Palestinian Arab, right? This only happened in 64 after they got their asses kicked, right? Now, the Nazis and the Arabs of the Middle East were allied against the Jews, and they were planning mass extermination. Now, just out of interest, I live in Poland, right? Poland lost something like 20% of its population after World War II. By the end of World War II, Poland lost about 20% of its population. Now, few people are aware that the Nazis intended to murder all the Polish adults. In fact, they intended to murder all the Slavs. They were going to kill all the gypsies. As you know, they
Hmm.
first started by killing all of the mentally ill people in their country. Those who were retarded, those who were, is that word still legal?
I
They
think if you say mentally before it, it's legal. The
there
way
were
you
who were
used
not
it is
well.
offensive.
Okay, they started murdering people who weren't well. They intended to murder the Poles. Now, think of this. Think of this. They lost 12 million people. Up to 12 million people were lost in Poland. Now, the Nazis are not known to have particularly hated the Poles, but they were going to murder every single one of them, keep the children, and then basically raise the children as Germans under
Mm.
Nazi ideology. Now, if they didn't particularly hate the Slavs, but they were going to kill all of them, every one of them, wipe them out through starvation, warfare, you name it, labor camps, we know they absolutely hated the Jews. How do you
Yeah.
think they were going to treat the Jews? Right?
Well,
Just as a
yeah.
question. So now the Nazis are no longer in existence, but the Palestinians continue the struggle against Jewish invaders. Now, interestingly, let's have a look at some death tolls. Okay, just an Middle East death toll. The Iran-Iraq War, 1.5 million. Syrian civil war, over 300,000. Yemen conflicts, okay, 237K. Right? Let's look at Iraq, uprising 1991. The Arab-Israeli conflict since 1948, 84,000 people dead. It's actually, of these major conflicts in the region, it's actually the lowest, and yet it gets the most noise,
Yeah.
right? So there's a little bit of hypocrisy. Also, notice they speak of genocide. Now, when your population goes from 500,000 to 7 million due to genocide, I'd say that either the maths is wrong or there's something wrong with this picture because genocide tends to make you go less. Now, people obviously dispute the whole idea of the Holocaust, right? But from 15 million Jews, you went down to what, 6 million Jews, right? 8 million Jews, whatever it was. I mean, whatever the
Right.
numbers were,
Yeah.
like 6 million Jews are supposed to have died, but that's an
Correct.
approximation,
Yeah.
right? So the Jews were actually less. The Palestinians have gone up by 6 or 7 times in population numbers or more, right?
Yeah.
How is that a genocide if the numbers are rising and the Jewish genocide was not a genocide when the numbers dropped by at least half?
Hmm. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, I think a lot of times you have to take into consideration the intention, right? So that are the Israelis currently are they intending to wipe out the population of Palestine of the Palestinians? Is
No,
that their intention?
no, I think it's fair to say that, as we know, and I'm going to go through various things, that if the Israelis lay down their weapons, they will be slaughtered. They will be wiped out, man, woman,
Hmm.
and child. Whereas, if Hamas and the PA laid down their weapons, there would be peace. Right. So, thank you for the
Right.
subscription. So, let's continue. Okay. Uh, so, a couple of things. Right. The Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but he was a KGB agent, right? So let's have a look at a few things that you may or may not be aware of. I'm just going to jump through a bunch of things here. This is an article in a German paper. I'm going to show an English translation in a moment. But the Nazis recruited Muslims systematically because, well, they hated the West, they hated Jews, and they fought in Hitler's army. Right? Let's have a
Mhm.
look at this translation. So it says here that the Nazis systematically recruited Muslims. Around 600,000 fought in Hitler's armies. Um, one would be an accident. 600,000 looks like it was deliberate. All right. Someone said so. Okay. Now, so Hitler, now in the translation, in the German translation, Hitler could not do anything with Christianity, but he was very fond of Islam because in the Wehrmacht and the SS, he let hundreds of thousands of Muslims fight for Germany. They systematically wooed Islam, shows the new book by historian David Mortado. Okay. At the beginning of 44, the Third Reich was struggling with the Allies. The Fuhrer desperately needed new soldiers and he took what he could get. At that time, hundreds of thousands of Muslims were already fighting in the ranks of the Wehrmacht and the SS with blessings. Even Heinrich Himmler had nothing against the recruitment of Muslim soldiers. And to strengthen Muslim troops' morale, he received a group of Muslim officers from Bosnia at the military, so on and so on and so on. Just, okay, Hitler, Mohammedanism could still inspire me to go to heaven, good grief. Yeah, Hitler, apparently a good Christian, fond of Islam. Yeah, whatever.
Mhm.
Your thoughts, AT?
Well, it's interesting how just the ideology, and that's kind of what I want to look at, just in terms of the root motivation behind the political movements of, let's say Nazi Germany and the leaders of, especially Hamas and the Palestinian leaders. I'm not saying everybody, just leaders. What drives them, right? Because at this point, it is a political issue, but underneath those politics are ideologies, right? There's worldviews. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing, like, what would you say the one thing or a couple of things that Nazi Germany and um, Muslims have in common?
Right. They hate Jews. So,
Yeah, and so that unites them, right?
yeah. Yeah. So look, this article is available. You guys are, everything is linked in my database. You can look through all of this. I'm going to jump through a couple of things. Now, here's something interesting. This Soviet document says that Mahmoud Abbas was a KGB spy in the 1980s. And this is relevant. We'll get to reasons why this is relevant, but Mr. Abbas may want to have worked for the KGB. So, KGB agent. So let's have a look
Mm.
at this. This article called the Soviet Palestinian Lie. Let's have a look. The PLO was dreamed up by the KGB, which had a penchant for liberation organizations. And this is according to Ion Mihai Patsepa, former chief of the Foreign Intelligence Services of Romania. So, first, the KGB destroyed the official records of Arafat's birth in Cairo, replaced them with fictitious documents saying that he had been born in Jerusalem and is therefore Palestinian by birth. Right? We'll get to Eon in a moment. The Islamic world was a waiting petri dish in which we could nurture a virulent strain of America hatred, grown from the bacterium of Marxist Leninist thought. Islamic anti-Semitism ran deep, right? We only had to keep repeating our themes that the United States and Israel were fascist imperial Zionist countries bankrolled by rich Jews. Yuri Andropov, former KGB chairman. You might have heard that name. As early as 1965, the USSR had formally proposed in the UN a resolution that would condemn Zionism as colonialism and racism. Although the Soviets did not succeed in their first attempt, the UN turned out to be overwhelmingly grateful recipient of Soviet bigotry and propaganda. In November 75, Resolution 3379, condemning Zionism as a form of racism and racial discrimination, was finally passed. As you know, the Soviets were the good guys. Okay, sorry, right?
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, everybody knows that.
Yeah, I'm just waiting. Okay, so now understand. So let me move forward. So what is Ian Patsepa? He died very recently, in fact, February 2021. He was a two-star general in the Securitate, the secret police of communist Romania, and he defected to the US in July 78, right? And he was the highest ranking defector from the former Eastern Bloc, right?
Wow.
So he provided a lot of very, very interesting information, right? So you can go ahead and learn all about this guy. But of course, he does talk about the Soviet role in supporting terrorism in the Middle East, and we will talk about that. I'll get to some of those things. Okay. Now let's just go on to. I'll skip this. Uh, okay, I'll talk more about some of this. This can make me go back to my notes, and let's just talk about a few things. Right. I'm going to skip through a bunch of things. Now, people speak about peace efforts, right? There were at least 6 peace efforts. These are peace efforts that were rejected by the Palestinians. You've got the UN Partition Plan, the Camp David Summit, the Roadmap to Peace, Arab Peace Initiative, Annapolis Peace Conference, the Olmert Abbas Offer, and they've rejected all of them. Okay, they simply rejected all of these. And let me go back down here. And then, of course, we've got this wonderful phenomenon of Pallywood, right? This is Palestinian propaganda that aims to fool the press and public opinion. Now, as you can see here, people are laughing and smiling. This guy's supposed to be shot, right? Now, look at this. This is an Israeli soldier threatening someone, and then afterwards the two of them are taking pictures. Now, does this mean that this is an Israeli, or is this a Palestinian, doing cosplay,
Hmm.
right? These are people. Now, look at this one. This is very interesting. You can look for Pallywood photos, and you will find plenty of examples of this kind of thing. This is just a joke. Okay. For instance, also this is how this is cropped, and then you see that this guy's beating this guy. Meanwhile, this is what's happening. Understand? There's lots of this cosplay going on. There's lots of this fakeness going on within the industry. Your thoughts, At?
I have never seen this before.
Oh,
My
really?
mind is blown. This is crazy.
Yeah, you'll see
I don't.
plenty of this kind of stuff. You'll see plenty of this. Also, it must be noted, okay, the the Israeli army is carefully trained, very carefully trained not to kill, right? They're trained to shoot to wound where possible, right? So that's why all these people have been shot in the leg. Now, do understand that the American aid money, America's been very stupid in providing aid money, right? But the Palestinians are paid money. $7,000 is paid to their family, and they get a salary if they kill Jews and if they die. And of course, they also get, I think, $3,500 a month if they are wounded, right? So they actually get literally paid money to kill Jews, right?
Hmm.
Um, so Edkin says if Muslims go on rejecting the peace offers, the region will end up in a three-state situation, the solution that neither party wants. Well, yeah, like, I prefer the one-state solution where the whole of the Middle East is given to Israel. So, okay, right. I'm just going to jump forward now. The Soviet-Palestinian lie. We've covered some of this, and I've shown you some of this. These statements. You can read through the article. As I said, the link is available to you to look through for yourself. Here is Yasser Arafat with Romanian leader Nicolae Ceausescu. Okay, Bucharest, 1974. Right, so he got around with all the bad guys, and this doesn't make the PLO the good guys, right? And of course, his grandfather or his uncle was the same Hajj Amin al Husseini that was a general, that was the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, and also a general in Hitler's army. Uh, any comments from you, Ati, before I move on? Because there's a lot that I just want to get through. I just want to show people
Yeah,
these
just
things.
keep going, buddy. You're completely just blowing my mind. So I'm just watching this live and having the ability to talk to you sometimes.
Okay, so now I want to show you things like this. Now, have a look here. Palestinian authorities crush dissent. This is something we don't hear about, okay? Because the Palestinians, the fake Palestinians are the good guys, right? This is from Human Rights Watch. Okay, Human Rights Watch, of course, monitors human rights abuses. Authorities crush dissent, arbitrary arrests, torture, systematic. Ramallah, the Fatah-led Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and Hamas authorities in Gaza routinely arrest and torture peaceful critics and opponents, Human Rights Watch said in a report released today. Right, so in other words, they're the good guys that don't torture their own people, okay? Journalists are known to receive heavy abuse and to risk their lives if they start to report in a way that these governments do not support.
Mm.
Understand? And you can find multitudes of articles like this detailing the human rights abuses by these governments. They're totalitarian. They don't only torture their own people, obviously, they attack Israel, they want to kill Jews, but they are also nasty to their own people. I'll get to that in a minute. Right, so understand there are lots of issues with this government, the way they mistreat their own people. Okay, now, of course, let's look at a few facts about Hamas. Now, Hamas is a wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. We'll look at some of that in a moment, but their proper name is the Islamic Resistance Movement. So Hamas is the Islamic resistance movement.
Hmm.
Okay, right? So let me just continue with that. Let me go through to some of the more important things because I will give highlights and you guys can go through this at your leisure. Everything I'm talking about is provided publicly for you to look at. Now, Hamas completely rejects a Jewish state. Israel, by virtue of its being Jewish and of having a Jewish population, defies Islam and the Muslims. Now, of course, you will find different translations of this, but people don't realize that Hamas has a constitution. They call it their charter, right? The
Hmm.
Hamas Charter. There's a number of articles, and this is Article 28 in the Hamas Charter. Sorry, my nose is itching. It's hay fever time. So, Israel, by virtue of being Jewish, okay, so basically, just by being Jewish, they are offending Hamas, right? Hamas's ultimate mission, no matter how long it takes, is to fight the Jews and kill them and to replace the Jewish state with an Islamic caliphate. So let's look at Hamas Charter, Article 9. The Islamic
Wow.
resistance movement aspires to realize the promise of Allah. Allah? I never heard of that guy. Is he someone we should know, Ethan? Anyway,
Yeah, you should not know him.
no matter how long it takes. Now, what is the promise of Allah? Well, the Prophet, Allah's prayers and peace be upon him, the hour of judgment shall not come until the Muslims fight the Jews and kill them, so that the Jews hide behind trees and stones, and each tree and stone will say, O Muslim, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him. Except for the Garkad tree, the box thorn, for it is the tree of the Jews. Hamas Charter, Article 7.
So that like we could literally go online and we could read that charter article, which is citing
Yes,
that hadith,
yes,
and that shows the intention behind Hamas. Like that is he sat down, he wrote this out, and what did he expect the world to do at that point?
yeah. So they're quoting this quite literally. Now, here's the thing. Muslims will tell you Islam's a religion of peace. Yellow, warm peace comes from the back of
Hmm.
a camel,
Hmm.
right? That kind of peace, right? And they'll say,
Healing
no,
pebbles.
but you're reading this wrong. It's how it's translated. Well, this is how they're translating it. So someone lied to them. Someone needs to go and tell them that, hey, Hamas, Islam's a religion of peace, right? I hope someone will be kind enough to do that and explain to them how they're misinterpreting that fighting the Jews and killing them is I don't know, means something else somehow. I don't know. As for the goals, they are to fight falsehood, vanquish it, and defeat it so that righteousness shall rule through murder, of course, and the
Hmm.
homeland shall return to its rightful owner. Now, of course, if the Supreme Muslim Council already says this land belongs to the Jews, it was where David made an altar unto the Lord in sight of Solomon's temple, the rightful owner would be the Jews, just so by the way. Okay? And of course, Muslims will call for the prayer will ring out announcing the rise and the rule of Islam, and everything shall return to its proper place. So the problem that Hamas is that the Jews stole the land before the Muslims got there.
Yeah, before they were even invented, essentially. But that's interesting. You also see the language that you talk about a lot with the Sharia, which is commanding the right and forbidding the wrong.
Yeah,
That's basically what that Article 9 was saying. Like it's good for us to defeat the Jewish people. That was what they truly believe is good. And you see in Article 7 why they believe that. It's the ideology found
yeah,
within the Islamic scriptures.
they're taking it literally. So
Hmm.
Hamas's enmity or hatred, remember this is enmity means deliberate hatred, is not directed against Israel alone, but against the Jewish people as a whole. In other words, all Jews worldwide. Jews are demonized repeatedly in Hamas's charter. Our fight with the Jews is extensive and grave, and it requires all the sincere efforts. It is a step that must be followed by further steps. The prophet says the hour of judgment. They repeat this again in Article 7, right?
Mm.
So now here's the conspiracy theory part in their article, in Charter Article 22. With money, they have taken, pardon me, with money, the Jews have taken control of the world media, news agencies, the press, publishing houses, broadcasting services. With money, they sparked revolutions in various countries around the world in order to serve their interest and reap profits. They were behind the French Revolution and the Communist Revolution, and they're behind most of the revolutions about which we hear from time to time here and there. With money, they have formed secret organizations all over the world in order to destroy those countries' societies and to serve the Zionist interests, such as the Freemasons, the Rotary Clubs, the Lions, the Sons of the Covenant, the B'nai B'rith. All of these organizations are espionage and sabotage. With money, they were able to take control of all the colonialist countries, and they urged them to call it blah, blah. Does this sound like conspiracy theorizing?
I mean, that's definitely a huge conspiracy. And what's funny is he keeps like repeating with money, with money, with money. Where did they get this money
Well,
from? Like,
now
are they
here's
just
interesting.
printing it off themselves? Or are they
I,
working for it?
now I should do a discussion on the I should do a discussion on following the money. Okay, once you start looking at this story about the money, Nicholas Paulson says, please comment on the initial 700,000 refugees that fled from Israel to the neighboring Arab countries in 48, as well as the accusations against Israel of great cruelty. I will touch on those things. I haven't looked at that closely enough, Nicholas, to really comment on that. Yet, yeah, I mean, I had to collect a whole bunch of stuff, so I was trying to get away from the typical narrative. But do understand, the largest secret society in the world is an Islamic one. It's called the Muslim Brotherhood, the Ikhwani Muslimun, or Ikhwani Muslimin. They have something like 2 to 3 million members. Okay, they have an adherence of followers of up to 100 million people. Now, how many Jews are in Israel? What, 7, 8 million? There's 100 million adherents of the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, 2 to 3 million
Hmm.
members. Now, they're speaking of secret societies here, and you've got the largest secret society in the world is an Islamic one. Okay, so I want to have a look at something here. Let's have a look at Freemasons. I just want to have a look at this. So I just want to go here quickly. This is a discussion on, this is from Idris Shah's book, The Sufi. And he says here, the Sufis are an ancient spiritual Freemasonry. Okay, the guy's a Muslim. How I assume he knows what he's talking about. Indeed, Freemasonry itself began as a Sufi society. The Sufis are Hindus, right? At
No, no, no. It's a Church of Scientology. They're Scientologists.
the Church of Science. Okay, I thought the Sufis were Muslims. I could be wrong, but Freemasonry began as a Sufi society, as an Islamic society. It first reached England in the reign of King Ethelstan in 924 and was introduced into Scotland disguised as a craft guild at the beginning of the 14th century, doubtless by the Knights Templar. Now, when you dig into the Knights Templar were killed for worshipping Muhammad, okay, for worshipping Baphomet. Baphomet is Muhammad, actually. So, and since we're talking about this, actually, let me actually go there. Why not? Since this would be
Hmm.
interesting. Okay. Um, I need to look for Baphomet. Let me find that. Oh, not there. Uh, let me find, I should have thought of this earlier. Uh,
I was gonna say there's a really interesting show. I think it was a History Channel
ah,
show about the Knights Templar and
Templar.
their
Yeah,
interaction with
yeah.
the Sufis. It's very
Now
interesting.
it's interesting that he claims, so Idris Shah claims that the Freemasons were started by the Sufis, an Islamic group, okay, an Islamic religious group, right? Let's have a look at Baphomet, right? Now the Knights Templar, they were eventually castigated, well, they were eventually destroyed by the Catholic Church for worshipping Baphomet, okay? This is Baphomet. Baphomet, of course, has a crescent and a star, right? A crescent and a star. You might be
Hmm.
familiar with the crescent and the star as the symbol of Islam, just so by the way. Modern scholars agree that Baphomet was an Old French corruption of the name Muhammad, with the interpretation being that some of the Templars, through their long military occupation, had begun incorporating Islamic ideas into their belief system, and that this was seen and documented by the inquisitors as heresy. In fact, they were Muslim Templars because the Templars started to invite Muslims in and they converted to Islam. Okay,
Oh.
so in Chanson de Simon Puy, written before 1235, a Saracen or Islamic idol is called a Baphomet. And a chronicler of the First Crusade, Raymond of Aguirre, called mosques Bafumarias. And if you look at the Oxford Dictionary, never heard of it, but must be important, Baphomet is a form of the name Muhammad used in medieval Europe.
Hmm.
Just so by the way, just thought I'd throw that out there. Yeah. Any thoughts from you, At?
That's nuts, man. Like even like the symbols being used are pretty much the exact same thing. And the fact that there's actual historical data that you can look at and read about that links the things together is pretty interesting as well.
Yeah. So understand there are lots of issues going on here. So Hamas rejects compromise, negotiations, or a diplomatic end to the conflict. Okay. They've made it very, very blatantly clear there is no solution to the Palestinian problem except by jihad. Jihad, as you know, is the peaceful effort to eat more salads, you know, and
Give more
and
hugs,
get more
hold more
hugs,
hands, more
hold
walks
more
on the beach.
hands. exactly. That's what jihad is. Unless I'm
Uh-huh.
mistaken, I could be wrong. I don't know. Do you think I'm wrong, guys?
Not
So,
at all. No.
so the Islamic resistance movement, so the movement educates its members to adhere to its principles and to raise the banner of Allah over their homeland as they fight their jihad. Fight their jihad. I don't know, guys. You might want to translate that for me, but there is no solution to the Palestinian problem except by jihad. Eating salads, I think, because
Hmm.
I keep getting told we misunderstand this word. So yeah, fighting jihad. Apparently Hamas is fighting jihad. Those rockets, could that be jihad?
Yeah, like they were confetti rockets. They were supposed to blow up and then just shower confetti all over Israel. I
Fireworks,
remember
fireworks.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
So notice peaceful solutions are all contrary to the beliefs of Hamas. All peace. So Hamas has rejected any and all peaceful solutions from the word go. There is no, that's Article 15. They are not going to follow any peaceful solution. Understand? So now, yeah. So no Hamas representative has ever renounced the charter. Okay. So they're calling for an Islamic caliphate in all of Israel, but it also means that they want worldwide Islamic rule. So don't forget, Hamas is the wing of the Muslim Brotherhood in Palestine. Okay. They are Muslim Brotherhood. And of course, I want to mention something here that there's a piece that I need to bring up as well with regards to this. So, no, I must not miss this. Okay, so here we go. I want to mention the USSR engaged in international smearing campaign in the Arab world. So they engaged in international smearing campaign in the Arab world. In 1972, the Soviet Union launched Operation SIG, Zionistskive Gosударства, or Zionist governments, with the purpose of portraying the United States as an arrogant and haughty Jewish fiefdom financed by Jewish money and run by Jewish politicians whose aim was to subordinate the entire Islamic world. Some 4,000 agents were sent from the Soviet Union into the Islamic world, armed with thousands of copies of the old Russian forgery, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, according to KGB chairman Yuri Andropov.
And the thing with these conspiracy theories, like I'm not totally above them. I can be convinced of them, but like any good crime, right, that happens or any good detective has to figure out motive for the
Yep.
crime. And I've asked a couple of Muslims this question and they're like, "Oh, the Jews do this and the Jews do that." I'm like, "For what purpose? For why?" Like I don't understand what the motive is for like the United States government to get involved like deeply into this. So far as I know, the United States government spends something like $3 billion plus every single year just to support Israel.
Well,
And they're
that
like,
money
oh,
is
but the
spent,
US is
man.
making money. No, the US is not making money.
No,
The
the US
US is
gives that
losing
money.
money.
The US gives that money to, look, for instance, they were giving $3 million a year to Pakistan as well. What is Pakistan doing? Financing jihad, right? Pakistan was
Same in
getting money.
Iraq,
No one
same
complained
same
about
in
that,
yeah.
right? But also that money is meant to be spent in a particular way. It's meant to be spent on aid, like building
Mhm.
schools, not firing off homemade rockets. And
Right.
also it is usually with the military aid, the US gives you the money and you have to spend it in the US. So that money goes right back to the US so that you
Yep, like
entrench your.
74% gets spent back, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to skip forward. I'm going to jump to the next item here. So I've covered that. Okay. Now these are things now you've learned. Okay. So you've learned now these things about, and I've covered this already. So I'm going to go forward, cover some other things. Now, of course, if we look, I mean, there's loads of crimes committed. Okay. Now notice Hamas. Let's look at Hamas. What good guys they are. Okay. Hamas targets Jewish civilians. This is a war crime. Okay. Now, of course, if you have your rocket launcher in a creche with kids or in a hospital, okay, somehow Hamas is unable to put their rocket launchers in military bases or in an open field. I don't know why, but somehow the best place to put your rocket launcher is in a creche filled with kids or a school or a hospital. Just me, but I think it's possible to put it in an open field so when it gets bombed, you don't kill 100 kids to go with it. But you have to make a choice. They are forcing a hard choice. They're forcing an impossible choice. I need to
Hmm.
protect my people and I need to blow up that rocket launcher and I'm going to kill 50 kids in the process. And unfortunately, if you need to defend your people, you need to take out that rocket launcher. It's that simple. right? Those are indiscriminate attacks against anyone and everyone because they hate Jews. They hate all Jews. This is not the Israeli government. They hate all Jews. Right
Hmm.
now, Hamas's brutality and disdain for civilian life extends to its own population, its own Palestinian population. So there was brutality following their election win. They were elected into the government, right? People voted for them. So they won the elections in 2006. They sent their militia into the streets. They attacked their opponents with assault rifles and grenades. They assassinated, they tortured their Fatah rivals. They killed women, children, and foreign diplomats. Some examples: Jordanian diplomat Khalid Radaida was killed when Hamas gunmen shot through the windshield of his car, despite the fact that he bore a diplomatic license plate. They ambushed and opened fire in the car of a Fatah loyalist, Baha Balushi, killing his 3 young children, 9, 7, and 4. On their way to school, 6 other children were also wounded. Hamas waged a bloody coup against Fatah. They stormed the home of a Fatah security officer, killing his 14-year-old son and 3 women inside the house. And this just goes on, and there are numerous reported human rights violations. Nicholas Paulson, tell him to shut up. I live in Sweden. We spend a horrendous amount of money on Palestinian foreign aid. That is, yeah, yeah. So, Sweden, the moral superpower of the world. So, the Palestinian Independent Commission for Human Rights in 2007 records almost 5 times as many complaints about human rights violations made by Gaza residents following Hamas's takeover of Gaza than in the half year preceding it. So once they took over, there were 513 human rights violations versus before. So they multiplied human rights violations. A comparison of the number of rights violated shows a tenfold increase for the 6 months of 2007 following the Hamas takeover: 1,487 human rights violations. Arrests without warrant. Now, I come from South Africa. People were moaning about, I don't know, a few hundred prisoners, whatever, being sent to prison, arrests without blah, blah, blah. But it's okay when Hamas does it because they're the good guys. Complaints about torture increased almost 70 times. 743 incidents versus 11. This is 2007. How do you think it is today? Right? Torture and seizure. There's just record after record after record after record of torture, and human rights violations. 80, your thoughts before I move on to the next thing.
It's just nuts. Like, and this is information that we need to be reading.
Right. So the PA continues to arrest and intimidate Palestinian journalists in the West Bank. This Palestinian was tortured, but no one cares because it wasn't by Israel. Now, here's the thing: the Chinese are literally rounding up Muslims in China, putting them in concentration camps, working them to death. Their wives are given to Chinese men to have sex with, to make babies, to make
Mhm.
them no longer have Muslim babies, but to make Han Chinese babies and make them good communists. And also, they're literally cutting these people open and taking out their organs. Okay? I'm waiting for the Muslims to protest at the Chinese embassy. Have you seen that happen, AT? Because I
I
don't think they
haven't.
care about Muslims. I think they just hate Jews.
Well, and here's
Okay.
and I think unfortunately I think that's right. I have such a hard time believing that someone can hate a group so much they're willing to basically oppress their own people. But I'm just starting to see that as being closer, or the reality of what's going on. You know what's kind of sad is I've seen videos by ex-Muslim atheists speaking out against the kind of genocide or whatever is going on, or the ethnic cleansing in China. And I've even seen Christian apologists speaking out against it. And not that
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch a whole lot of Muslim channels, but I've not yet seen any degree of speaking out against it. And even if there was, it has not come to the same degree as which the Israel-Palestine conflict is being
Yeah.
spoken about.
Yep. Yeah. So I'll move on. So, guys, we've spoken about the death toll. I'm just going to go and jump forward into something else. So I want to cover a bunch of things. This is the religion of peace. Okay. This is a symbol of peace because they're the good guys. 2 AK-47s and a grenade over the land of Israel because these guys are the good guys. Right. This is the yeah, yeah. This is what Israel is dealing with. Okay, so I'm going to now. What's interesting? Here's something very interesting. There are several dozen Muslims who've been recognized by Israel, by the Israeli government, for having saved Jews during the Holocaust and having saved Jews during other events. Okay,
Hmm.
there actually are a number of these. Okay, let me just actually bring this one up. I'm just going to copy the link, and let me go to my document here. Let me see if I have this one. So this is a very interesting article as well, which you might. It's hard to deny a Holocaust your father saved Jews from.
That's a very good yep, that's a very good, title of that
It's
piece.
really hard to deny a Holocaust your father saved Jews from. So these are Muslims who violated the Islamic moral principles and saved people. They were good people. They saved Jews from
Mhm.
being killed. So tackling a fractured relationship with London's Muslims, the Anglo-Jewish leadership is staging a display honoring righteous Muslims during the Shoah. The Shoah is the Holocaust. So this is very interesting. Sheikh Ibrahim Mogra views a new board of deputies of displays, which displays righteous Muslims during the Holocaust. Okay, so yeah, this is a bit of a weird one, but you guys, this is all in the notes. You guys can read through this. Okay, what kind of English is what? Um, did it? So yeah. But anyway, Israel has named 70 Muslims as righteous amongst the nations, the official designations for Gentiles who saved Jews in World War II, although there are
Mm,
many other examples. Okay. So, oh,
yeah.
by the way, just since we were on that topic, Kabbalah, let's have a look. This is another very interesting topic to go into one fine day. Um, uh, it's the Chinese are sending Chinese men to marry Uyghur women while the Muslim world, Pakistan, are either silent or complicit. Yes, exactly. So, Kabbalah, known as Jewish mystic philosophy, but it only dates to the 1520s. Okay, it's not ancient, it's only the 1520s, and there's a story there. It's
Oh.
from medieval Latin, Kabbalah, from Mishnaic Hebrew, Kabbalah, reception, received law, tradition, especially tradition of mystical interpretation of the Old Testament, from Kibbel, to receive, to admit, to accept. Compared to Arabic Kabbalah, this is from the online etymology dictionary, okay?
Mhm.
Compare Arabic Kabbalah, he received, he accepted, hence any secret or esoteric science.
Hmm.
Arabic Kabbalah, now we know that Islam only dates to the 1530s, right? So it came after the 1520s. So Arabic Kabbalah dates after Jewish Kabbalah, right? Or does Islam go back to the 7th century?
Right. It goes back to the 7th century.
So Arabic Kabbalah predates Jewish Kabbalah. Now, Kabbalah, I'm just curious, why don't we hear about this Arabic Kabbalah? You know, everyone's
Mm,
talking about the Jewish Kabbalah, but the thing is, if you're talking about ancient Jewish mysticism, you'd be talking about Merkava mysticism, not Kabbalah. Kabbalah is a recent
right,
invention, and Arabic
right.
Kabbalah dates to before. Interesting. Just thought I would throw that out there. Ponder that
Yeah.
if you have some time. Okay, let's go back to the notes. Oh, the article title on the one in the screen. Okay, so yeah, this is a picture of Grand Mufti of Jerusalem and of Palestine, Hajj Amin al Husseini, having tea and discussions with Hitler. Now, do understand that according to all accounts, right, he he was the one who suggested that Muslims wear armbands to mark them as dhimmis, because that is the Islamic practice. You mark your dhimmis. They have to wear these armbands or identifying feature, the star or something. That's what
Mhm.
Muslims did to the dhimmis. So Hitler agreed with that. Then also he suggested that Hitler burns and cremates the Jews because it is a final insult to the Jews. A Jew that is cremated does not go to heaven. This is the Jewish belief, and this is why they did it. Because a Jew, for instance, if he loses a limb, let's say he dies and his leg is amputated, that leg gets buried in the casket with him because when he goes, he needs to be resurrected whole, right? And of
Right.
course, by cremating them, they could not be resurrected again. Understand? So there are reasons for what happened there. Now, this is the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, good Nazi that he was, doing the Nazi salute to these people wearing fez caps. Fez caps are Islamic. Okay, so Fez Morocco, the cap, the Fez was designed after 50,000 Catholics were killed by Moroccans, right? In celebration of the event of 50,000 Catholics being murdered by these men, they invented the Fez cap as a reminder of the event. It might also be interesting to note that 120,000 Jews were also murdered in one event in the 1000s in the 11th century by near Fez in Morocco. So, yeah. MMSU says, what about the conspiracy of the Young Turks under the Ottomans being a Jewish creation where Jews became? Yeah, look, Shabtai Zvi. That would go back to the story of Shabbatai Zvi or Shabtai Zvi, right? Shabtai Zvi, you would know his followers as the Frankists. Now, of course, people say the Frankists are Jews. Now, interestingly, Shabtai Zvi converted to Islam, right? His followers converted with him, which means the Frankists might have a Jewish identity, but they're Muslims. They are crypto Muslims. Now
Hmm.
everyone talks about crypto Jews, and believe me, whatever happens, Muslims always project. So if they're talking about crypto Muslims, then man, there's definitely crypto Jews. These are crypto Jews. These are Muslims in Jewish disguise.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on from this, this is him with the Nazi leadership. That's good old Himmler right over there. Hitler's number two man. This is him with his troops. Awesome, great guy. Him with Himmler again. This is him, blah, blah. So I guess this is not just one photo. Oh, and this one is interesting. Islam and the Jews with these fez caps, right? Fascinating stuff. Reading about Islam and the Jews, right? And this is him with Himmler, Hitler's number two guy. Okay, this is him. Oh, this is Yasser Arafat's uncle or grandfather. I can't remember which. I think it's his grandfather. His uncle, sorry, his uncle. So Yasser Arafat has a proud lineage with not only having the Nazi family, but KGB.
Oh,
So yeah, doing his Nazi salute all over the place. Okay. Amin al Husseini was known for saying, "Slaughter Jews wherever you find them. Their spilled blood pleases Allah, our history, and our religion. Religion of peace, guys. Warm yellow camel peace, as we all know." Comments from you, AT?
this is incredibly depressing, honestly. Like this is breaking my heart with like seeing all the hatred just because a certain people group have a certain bloodline. I just can't wrap my head around it.
Okay. So yeah, Hajj Amin al Husseini, as he likes Arabs to see him, especially Arabs bearing arms. Okay, so Hitler of the Holy Land. This will be a very interesting book to read. A first-hand report on the Mufti, master of terrorism. His development, his influence actually created. Now he was very close to the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, that's another story. So he's very close to the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, and between the two of them, they have founded something like 200 Islamic terror groups who have been inspired by their example. Yasser Arafat was related to Husseini. Yes, Husseini was his uncle, as I recall. So here he is, Hajj Amin al Husseini. So there's the Mufti of Jerusalem during the British Mandate period in the years 1921 to 37. Then, of course, you have this wonderful book here. It's actually quite detailed. The Nazi Connection to Islamic Terrorism, Adolf Hitler and Hajj Amin al Husseini by Chuck Morse. Right? This is the remarkable story of Hajj Amin al Husseini, who in many ways was a big Nazi villain, as big a Nazi villain as Hitler. And to understand his influence on the Middle East is to understand the ongoing genocidal program against the Jews of Israel. He was a bridge figure in terms of transporting the Nazi genocide in Europe into the post-war Middle East. He was the Arab Palestine leader during the British Mandate period. He introduced violence against Arabs as well as against Jews. He met with Adolf Eichmann in Palestine in 1937 and went on the payroll as a Nazi agent. Right? He played a pivotal role, behind the scenes role, in instigating a pro-Nazi coup in Iraq in 1941, urging Nazis and pro-Nazi governments in Europe to transport Jews to death camps, in training pro-Nazi Bosnian brigades, and in funneling Nazi loot into post-war Arab countries. Was he a good guy, or was he a baddie? What do you think, AT?
Horrible person, man. Evil, horrible.
Yeah. So understand that violence against Jews dated to well before the establishment of Israel as a country, right? Well before 1948. If you'll find records, long records of violence against Jews long before Israel was established. Okay. Now, I'm not going to get into any of that history because I need to go and research that more thoroughly. But I want to show you a side of this that you're not aware of. Okay. So this is one of his quotes apparently. Arise, sons of Arabia, fight for your sacred rights, slaughter Jews wherever you find them. Their spilled blood pleases Allah, and that will save our honor. Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. Okay. Yeah. So, how evil was the Mufti? Most evil. Okay, so here we go. This is him with Hitler. And of course, in 1943, Nazi Muslims created a group called the Cream of Islam. Amin al Husseini created the Hanjar division of Nazi Muslim soldiers in Bosnia, what he calls the Cream of Islam. It becomes the largest division in the Third Reich army. It's actually close to 30,000 men, and they participate actively in the genocide of Serbian and Jewish populations. They were just killers. Hanjar was the name given to the dagger worn by officers under the Turkish Ottoman Empire. Muslim soldiers pledged allegiance to the Nazi regime in an official statement prepared by Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, the Schutzstaffeln, the Nazi troops. So the largest Nazi division, okay, was Muslim, not Christians, Muslims. Now let's have a look. Muslim members of the Waffen SS 13th Division, the Hanjar, at prayer during their training in Germany. This is a German prayer, right? This is typical German behavior, correct, AT?
Yeah, right along with the Church of Scientology.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, these German troops, these are German troops. They're practicing. I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's a German practice we've never heard of. But this is the sword of Muhammad
Well,
with
they
a
eat a lot of
swastika.
sauerkraut, so they got to get that gas out somehow.
Oh boy, only the man in front is safe. Okay. Now, Adolf Hitler was known to have apparently said something like, "The only religion I respect is Islam. The only prophet I
Hmm.
admire is the prophet Muhammad."
Hmm.
Okay, so Ahmed Huber quotes his friend Hitler, okay, in Kevin Coogan's book, The Mysterious Ahmed Huber, Friend to Hitler, Allah and Ibn Laden. Okay, so Christians live under delusion of a Jewish-based myth. They worship a Jewish identity. They believe the Jews are God's chosen people. Christians cannot condemn Jews because they would be condemning their own faith. How can the most insidious enemy of all time be the very people you base and trust your life upon? You can't criticize the Jews when you are hoping to spend eternity with the Jewish God. Adolf Hitler in Mein Kampf. Of course, you do know that Mein Kampf is still very much a bestseller in Palestine, right? Because they're the good
Oh,
guys.
really? Wow, no,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
It was translated there, like it was. They translated it. I mean, there's a whole story about it, but read up on Mein Kampf and the Arab World. It's a big
That's
bestseller.
nuts.
Okay.
It's
So the
crazy.
Grand Mufti again. I mean, this is just picture after picture of this guy just doing the whole Nazi thing. Understand? This is no accident. This man was, oh, Palestina. What is Palestina? What country could that be? At with their Nazi
Uh,
flag.
Palestina with a Nazi
Pal-
flag. I'm gonna
Palestina.
go
Who's
just
heard of
with
that
Palestine.
country?
I'm gonna go ahead and say it. There we go.
Palestine? Oh yeah. Sorry. So the Palestinians were literally Nazis. Okay. Not the Orange Man. These guys. These guys were Nazis. Not the Orange Man. These guys. Okay. The Germans backed the Muslims in both world wars. That is true, and the Muslims backed the Germans. Because notice in World War One, right? There was a dude that killed Count Ferdinand, threw a grenade at his car or whatever it was, and killed him. While the first guy who was supposed to do it was a Muslim, a Bosnian, I believe, who for some reason
Mm.
chickened out or got sick or didn't do it. Edkin, if you can put those details in the chat, but a Muslim was supposed to start the First World War by killing good old Count Ferdinand. He chickened out, and some other dude did it. It was supposed to be a Muslim. Just so, by the way, the Germans th- take a step back. The Muslims. Okay. So Ritzy Pete says, why have I not heard of a ton of this stuff? Because Islam's a religion of peace. Jeez, dude.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
moving on. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
This is the flag, I believe, of the Hitler Youth. Okay. So this is the Arab Palestinian, I believe. So this is a mistake here. I believe this is the flag of the Hitler Youth of Palestine. Okay. Start them young. You know what I'm saying? Get them young.
Hmm.
So yeah. So just so you know, this is the original letter. This is the original letter from the Bundesarchiv, the Bundesarchive, of this. Read this signature, Amin el Husseini. He
Hmm.
sends this letter to Hitler. This is addressed to Reichsfuhrer. You know this guy's Hitler. This is the letter that he originally sends to Hitler, promising that all Arabs and all Muslims would fight side by side with the Nazis to kill all Jews. This is the letter that the Haj Amin al Husseini sent to Hitler to say, hey, buddy, we're in this together. So, understand, okay? So one of the conspiracies was a Muslim Bosniak. Yes, exactly. So yeah. So anyway, so guys, I think es ist anlässlich des Tages der Balfour-Deklaration, die von England am 2. November 1917 abgegeben wurde und in der den Juden die Errichtung eines jüdischen Nationalismus in Palästina versprochen wurde, was die Araber zu einem 25-jährigen Kampf voll Blut und Opfer, der noch im Gange ist, von Leicester veranstaltet das Islamische Zentralinstitut of Berlin, blah, 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 blah. So basically he's saying, Entschluss der Araber und der Muslime, den Kampf gegen die Juden und ihre Helfer Seite an Seite mit Deutschland und seinen Verbündeten bis zum endgültigen Siege durchzuführen. So it says here, we've made the decision that the Arabs and the Muslims will fight against the Jews and ihre Helfer, okay? I think they're saying half and half, will fight side by side, okay, with Germany and its allies to the final victory, to push through the final victory, zum Ausdruck zu bringen. to bring the final victory to expression. Sorry, I haven't spoken German in a long time. I used to speak it almost fluently when I was younger.
It
I don't.
sounded fantastic. I thought it was
Ja,
good.
ja,
So
ich
not
beehre
that I
mich
was fluent in different.
Ihnen okay. Ich beehre mich, Ihnen beiliegend eine Anladung zu dieser Kundgebung zu übersenden. I am very proud. I am honored to give you an invitation to this, I don't know, to this Kundgebung. I don't know. Sorry, it's been a while since I've done this. I should have translated it before. But anyway, so ja, sehr gut. Danke sehr. Ja, es ist eine Weile, seitdem ich Deutsch geredet habe. Als Kind habe ich ganz oft, aber jetzt nicht mehr. Okay, so this is so this is what we're looking at here. Okay, so yeah, so guys, this is really what we're looking at, and oh, the Ashkenazis. Oh, yeah. We need to. This is something I need to get into another
Yeah,
time. But this is a
this is
story for another time, not for today.
mhm.
Okay. So, and I will. So I'll end off. I'll start ending off at this point. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, right? After Germany was defeated, high-ranking militarists migrated to Egypt to train them in military tactics in their fight against Jews. Now we need to dig up more of that information. Prophet Google translate to help. Yes, David. So why do so many repeat the lie of Arab East Jerusalem? When did it get this status? Only after Jordan ethnically cleansed East Jerusalem of all its Jews. Okay,
Mm,
so understand there were Jews all over North Africa. There were Jews in Arabia. I don't see any Muslims complaining about the ethnic cleansing of Jews from Africa. Okay, I don't see them complaining about the ethnic cleansing of Jews from Arabia. From 1948 to 67, the city of Jerusalem was divided for the first time in its history by Arab Jordanian invaders and colonizers. Not only was it divided, but the Arab conquest brought with it the destruction of Jewish lives and holy sites at a level unseen in the city since the Crusades. Under Jordanian occupation, the city was not made the capital or part of Palestine. Jews were barred. Okay, Jews were barred from entering sections of the city. They were now. Oh, I want to mention something. Apartheid. Okay, I grew up in apartheid South Africa. Apartheid means just apartness, separation,
mhm.
to be apart. Um, Now, I should do a show one day just to annoy people, okay, to discuss what was happening, what the white government was doing during apartheid. And you would find that the policies of the South African government were overwhelmingly positive for the blacks. Okay, now I'll do a show on that because the story that you've been told about apartheid is a big fat lie. Yes, bad things happened. Yes, bad things happened. But you see, one of the major reasons that the blacks were separated from, because the blacks were also separated. Remember, they moved the blacks to different areas because you see, when they were together, they murdered each other, they slaughtered each other, they killed each other. So you know what? When people are killing each other when they get together, you put one group over there, you put one group over there, you keep them apart so they don't murder each other, which is generally a good idea in civilized nations. So that's part of the reason for apartheid. But I'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the policies and just to annoy the hell out of people. So understand, there's a 3,000-year history of the city of Jerusalem. Okay, and all of these problems start with the Palestinians. Now, the real Nakba of 1948, the Jewish quarter has been destroyed, nothing remains. The return of the Jews is impossible. Abdullah al-Tal commanded the Jordanian attack in 1948. Jordan's Arab Legion expelled Jerusalem's ancient Jewish community. Arab soldiers expelled every Jew from Jerusalem. This did happen. Okay?
Hmm.
So I'm not going to go into every last detail. I'll end up here. I'll think I've said enough. But I hope I've given you enough information for you to realize there's an aspect to the story. There are rabbit holes to go down. There are threads to be unraveled. There are narratives you've not been told. There are things that
Mhm.
the Palestinians, the Nazi Palestinians, were not the good guys. And if you look today, look up Nazi Palestine or look up on Google, you'll find, we love Hitler. Hitler should have finished the job. All of this stuff is in, you'll see flags with Nazi flags all over Palestine. Okay,
Yeah.
lots of respect. So, AT, your thoughts?
Well, I've even heard, even some of my friends, my Arab friends, I had to convince them otherwise, but they were actually Holocaust deniers. They believed that it was just some big conspiracy put on by the Jews so that they could rightfully, enter into the land of Israel. That's the kind of mentality that their culture has done to their brains. Like to really sit there and be able to deny the Holocaust even happened is beyond my imagination.
Yeah.
And just to kind of speak to a humanitarian aspect of it, what's really sad, I think, Lloyd, is like you were kind of saying, it only takes about 15% or so of the leadership in any given population to kind of ruin things for everybody. I mean, obviously, the West Bank has well, not the West Bank, sorry, Gaza has Hamas, right? A terrorist state, essentially. But I would be willing to bet that a pretty good summation of people there just want to live their lives. They want to live their lives freely. They want to be able to go to and from, wherever they are, and just take care of themselves and their family. And it is a tragedy to see that they can't do that, right? They can't do that, and it's because of their leadership. Their leadership is effectively screwing them over, and that's horribly depressing. And so you and I got to talking about this the other day. Um, you know, where can they go? So where can someone with a Palestinian passport or whatever, where can they go if they want to leave their country, right? Because it's too ridiculous. Like where are they allowed to go? I mean, obviously, Israel's not
Yeah.
really interested in taking them. Can they go to like Jordan or Syria or Egypt or Lebanon, or like what's the rules with that? Do you know?
Um, the Palestinians.
Yeah, where can they like if they wanted to flee the
Palestinians are
country?
not
Right?
welcome anywhere. They're really welcome anywhere. I'll tell you a story. I was in Lebanon. Nicholas Parsons' suggestion for a future video topic: Mohammed
Yeah.
bin Salman's latest interview about only accepting mutawatir hadiths. Will it have any real consequences? So, Nicholas, on the matter of mutawatir hadiths, scholars have only agreed. Okay, Islamic scholars, and this is, remember, this is after centuries of debate, right? What Islamic scholars have only agreed that there are one to a maximum of five mutawatir hadith in the entire corpus of 2 million hadith. Okay. So if they can only agree that a maximum of five hadith are mutawatir, I mean, like, that's not a lot now, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So really, this whole story of mutawatir hadith is a joke because there's a maximum of five. Right. So yeah, no. And don't forget, there's at least 2 million hadith. 2 million, of which only about 19-20,000 are considered da'if, sahih, and hasan. So
Hmm.
it's like 1% of hadith are legit, and like literally 1,980,000 are considered complete trash. I mean, like, yeah. And also, it's crazy. Muslims will go, that's a da'if hadith, that's weak. And then somehow saying that that's weak makes Islam true. It's like, I mean, seriously, lately I've just started saying when Muslims tell me what the Bible says, I'm like, that's the corrupted Bible. The original Bible said something different. Okay, that's the corrupted Bibles. You need to get the original Bible because it is completely different. Or they'll say,
Hmm.
but that the Bible says that's a da'if narration from the Bible. That's not a sahih narration in the Bible. That's weak. Well, seriously, man, we've been on this merry-go-round so long. They're just going to tell you something else. So I mean, why am I even taking this seriously?
Right. No, it's challenging for sure.
You know. So does the audience have any questions? You know, there was something. There's a wonderful picture I've got here where from Palestine where they like have a big flag. It says "We love Hitler." I wanted to find that. And I can't find it now.
Mm. Well, I have a question if I don't see any other ones coming through here necessarily, but I always lose my mind at some point during our conversations. I'll always have like the greatest question of all time, and then I forget it.
Yeah.
Let me try to think what it was. Um, yeah, totally lost my mind
If the
there.
rest of you can just post some questions, we can try and take some questions. But I wanted to go off the beaten track and talk about things that are just not being
Hmm.
discussed. I'm trying to find this other picture, just so by the way. Um,
Yeah, I think you shared that with me at some point. Maybe it's even on our
J
chat
and L
thing.
says your presentation. Who's J and L? Lost and found. Who's J and L?
Yeah, somebody ended up deleting their post. They basically just said that our presentation is no good, and we need to go watch some other presentations somewhere. That's about as much as I saw.
Yeah, yeah. We need alternative facts, right? We need Muslim-approved facts. Well, Muslims have admitted one point is the Muslims world supported Nazi Germany. They still do. They
Right.
still
And you
do.
know what, JNL, like you had the opportunity to create your own like refutation video, right? You can splice up our video and you can bring facts and points and things like that and create your own video. If you want to do that, you could upload it on your channel and you can, debunk everything that we said. Like you have the freedom to do that. So and go ahead and do that. Oh, he says you need to read Edward said or Said or however you say that. So whoever
Edward
Edward
Said.
said
Oh, that
is.
that guy's cruel as hell. Wonder I should just bring up something. Science. Uh, let's have a look at this, okay? Let's just look at this. Islam is about science. Islam is all about the science, man, the knowledge,
Hmm.
right? There are roughly 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, but only two scientists from the Muslim world have won the Nobel Prize in science because Islam is pro science, baby. Because as you
Yeah.
know, semen is produced between the toes and the top of your head. That's in the Quran. That's in the
Yeah.
Quran, baby.
It, that's that, and if it's in the Quran, it's mutawata. So we already automatically know that it's
Okay.
100% factual. And then once the fluid that leaks from between your backbone and your ribs, it congeals into a blood clot, which everybody knows that blood clots are embryos. And then bones are formed.
Well,
And then
before I
once the
get into
bones
before I
are
get too
formed,
long into
then the
that,
skin wraps it up. So,
yeah, before I get
um,
into that, slander. Okay, two things. So Tim Lutz, slander is Islam's best. Slander. Okay, in Western law, slander means to tell a lie about someone, to falsify
mhm.
something, and to besmirch their name. Okay, and this is a crime. In Islam, slander is known as riba. Okay, you can find this in the Reliance of the Traveler. There have been links popping up in the chat, and you'll find it in my description box. The Reliance of the Traveler. Look up riba, Ghiba, slander. Slander in Islam can mean to tell a lie about someone, but slander has a main meaning. Its primary meaning, its first meaning, is to tell something about someone that is true, is to tell the truth about someone that he would dislike.
Mhm.
Okay? And therefore, to tell the truth about Muhammad, to tell the truth about Islam, to tell the truth about a Muslim that they would not like you to tell is slander. Do you understand? They have a completely inverted view of slander. So, what we are showing is the truth about Islam, and this is slander. Understand? So, this is a problem. Uh, Someone asked me, let me see, there was a question. MMSU 31, Lloyd Young, is it true that Nelson Mandela was a former communist? So, the former president of South Africa was trained by the communists in Moscow by the KGB in counterterrorism. Okay, as a communist counterterror agent. Okay, Nelson Mandela was trained in Warsaw. He was trained here in Poland during the communist era as a terrorist, and the current president was also trained in communist insurgency. Okay, as an insurgent. So the
Mm.
entire top echelon of the ANC are hardcore 80s communists. They were all trained in communist China, Vietnam, Warsaw, as well as Moscow. So we've had three presidents that are all highly trained communist agents. Okay, Nelson Mandela was a through and through communist. He never renounced violence. Towards the end of his life, I do believe that he realized where things were going to go, and he tried to change things. I think towards the very end of his life, the last year or two of his life, it was too late. It was too late.
Hmm.
Don't forget, South Africa had a very low murder rate. I believe, I need to check the statistics, but the murder rate was about 187 a year, which was incredibly low for a westernized
It is
country.
low.
Incredibly
Yeah.
low. And then, of course, we were saved by communist ANC. We had the end of apartheid, and the murder rate went from 187 a year to 25,000.
Wow.
Winning,
That
winning.
is,
Okay,
well, it's population control, I suppose, but I would not
so
call that winning.
so when you go from 187 murders a year, whatever it was, to 25,000 in the first 4 years per year under Nelson Mandela, maybe that's not winning so much,
Yeah,
right?
that's nuts.
Understand? And there's a lot of bad numbers that come out of this. Nelson Mandela was a a total failure when it came to just running the country. One thing he did was okay. He didn't. He There was no mass genocide of whites immediately. There was no massive uprising and slaughter. He did prevent
Hmm.
that from happening. Okay, fine, kudos to him. But the downward slide we're experiencing now, and something like 10 times more whites have been murdered by blacks in revenge, supposed revenge for all of apartheid, than have been killed under the entire apartheid regime. Right? Don't forget, I'll tell you a brief story. Two things I want to tell you. One, there was a thing called the Mifakani, the Difakani, the Lifakani. Depends which history book you check.
Hmm.
The original inhabitants of South Africa were brown people, the San and the Khoi. Okay, the Khoi San, the Bushmen, and the Strandloper, right? Those who walk on the beaches, right? They So what happens is you had blacks from Central Africa, the Nguni tribes, right? Nigeria, Cameroon, and so on. Tanzania came down and they wiped out, they killed at least 2 million people of the original inhabitants. They wiped out, I don't know, a huge percentage of the population. So at least half the country was wiped out by the blacks that invaded the country from the north. That's the current blacks, okay, the current black population came down, invaded the country. They're invaders just as anyone else is an invader. They came into the country, wiped out the original population, and then these white settlers came in and they protected and saved those blacks from being genocided completely. Okay? Because these tribes that were being wiped out ran west, met the whites, and the whites saved them. Of course, you can't say that because that's racist, because as you know, black people don't do violent things, right? So now you've got, so this genocide, right? You have 2 million people, at least 2 million people killed between Shaka Zulu and I can't remember this other fool's name. So Dingus Waya, no. Between Shaka Zulu, who was a genocidal maniac, and another dude, I can't remember his name, they wiped out at least 50% of the country. And they're heroes today. They're heroes. Okay. So understand, don't believe everything you read. Look at your history. Everything you've been told is a lie. I mean, honestly, I believed everything about Muslims. I believed everything about Islam. I believed everything about the Jews, and I was told until I started reading stuff, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I'll pause there. I'll tell you another story. I'm in Lebanon. I'm working in Lebanon. My first visit, and I realized this is a Christian country under the influence of Islam, and I'm like, good God, if this ever happens to Europe, we are screwed. I was
Mm.
terrified. So I get to this one town. I can't remember the name, and there's this massive wall, like a prison wall around it, and okay, I need to go back and research this, but I'm just telling you what happened from memory, right? So there's this massive wall, and I'm like, is this a prison? Because it's like a 6 or 6 meter wall or something. And they say, no, that's an old Palestinian refugee neighborhood. Palestinians came here, they were resettled, they were given everything, and for 4 years there was hell. These Palestinians would come out, they got weapons, they were criminal, they were violent. They started imposing their version of Islam on the population, and they started attacking the government, they started car bombings, killing politicians, killing police, killing judges. They were starting to sow terror in the community. And the government trying to negotiate and say, look, what can we do? Just stop, please stop. But they obviously wanted to impose their version of Islam on the whole country, right? Because they're crazy. And for 4 years, the government gave them creches, money, schools, hospitals, medicine, doctors, you name it. And eventually the government built this wall. And I was at the military base. I was working at the military base where they bombed them from. And eventually the government said, enough. They took 1,000-pound bombs. They dropped those bombs on the neighborhood, which was now behind these walls. And as far as
Mm.
I was told, they murdered 4,000 men, women, and children over one night. Killed them all.
Wow.
I will say they did tell me the problem stopped after that. You make of that what you will. AT, up to you.
Well, it's a crazy world, man. That's all I can say about that. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty good from my end. I don't know if I saw too many other comments here. Apparently, because we don't know who the Edward said guy is, then we don't know anything apparently. So
Mhm.
I'll be happy to read more about Edward said and see what he has to say. I have no
Yeah.
problem with that. I have no problem with
Yeah,
opposing
Michiel van der
views.
Vlies says Leiden University has a researcher did study on how Muslims always blame other people. Don't forget, it is illegal for a Muslim to believe ill of Islam, to believe anything negative. Okay, the punishment for this is death. Let me actually just go here. Uh, I don't want to go to that. No. Actually, let me just bring up a document which I think might be useful. Sharia manuals and guys, so I'm going to end off very shortly. I went longer than I anticipated, but I hope this has been interesting. If there are more questions, please mention them and I will try and get to them. Yeah, the ANC is corrupt as hell. I'm just downloading this file and I will. So, Muslims are not allowed under any condition to think ill of Muhammad, to think ill of Islam, to think ill of Allah, to do so, even if, remember, slander is to tell the truth about Islam. That's slander, right? So it's slander, but it is also a crime called Sab al Rasul. This book is called The Unsheathed Sword Against the One Who Insults the Messenger, okay, written by Sheikh ul Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, one of the 28 or 29 best scholars of Islam to ever live, okay? besides the four imams who established the four schools of jurisprudence, and above them Ghazali and then Muhammad, right? Notice,
Mhm.
let's just begin here. Whoever insults the Prophet is to be killed, whether they are Muslim or a disbeliever. Killing is prescribed on him, the one who insults the Prophet, and it is not permissible to imprison him or show him favor or ransom him. Any Muslim or non-Muslim who insults the Prophet is to be killed, and repentance is not sought. I think that's pretty clear from that. This book concerns the Islamic ruling upon those who insult the final prophet and messenger, Muhammad. Okay? And so understand the objective of this work is to clarify the Islamic ruling on this subject. So the one who insults the Prophet, whether Muslim or disbeliever, is to be killed. So these are the Sharia rulings on insulting Muhammad. Okay?
Mhm.
And they clarify, so whoever insults the Prophet is to be killed. So we are talking about Muhammad in an unsightly way. So according to Islamic law, all of us suffer the death penalty. Okay, the scholars have consensus that whoever insults Muhammad is to be killed. Now, how they define insult is not the way you would define insult. Understand? The Muslims have unanimous agreement upon killing whoever insults the Prophet. It is the ruling that whoever insults other than him is to be lashed. And this consensus is the consensus of everyone and the companions, the tabi'un, or the followers of Muhammad. Okay, and the
Yeah.
companions of Allah's Messenger. So they're the followers of the companions. Right? So you have the companions and the followers of the companions. I think this is clear. Right? The whole book, if you just go through it, page after page, kill them, kill them, kill them.
Right.
There's no way to interpret this differently. Your
But
thoughts, Akil?
what is the unforgivable sin in Islam?
Shirk. That's a joke.
Shirk, right? Which is taking partners with Allah. So, um, it almost seems like to me that Muhammad is even above Allah just in terms of how we need to respect him. Are there any rules on if you draw pictures of Allah or you insult Allah, do
No,
you have to get your
no,
head
that's
chopped
weird,
off, or
bro.
is it
That's
only
weird.
if it's Muhammad?
No, that's weird.
It
That's
is
weird.
weird. And then even when you take the Shahada, right? That's how you become a Muslim. You say, "Oh, there is no God but God." Why don't just leave it at that? Why do you have to keep going and say, "And Muhammad is his prophet"? Well, it's because it's shirk, in my opinion. It's shirk to begin with. Just even to become a Muslim, you have to take a partner with Allah, and you're willing to kill people and be killed for Muhammad, but not so much
Yeah.
for Allah. That makes
Yeah.
not
No,
much
because
sense.
also don't forget, it's in the Sharia. I'm not going to go into the reference now, but it's in the Reliance. Download it. You're required as a Muslim to believe in Muhammad, and you have to love Muhammad more than anything else in the world. You have to love him more than your wife, more than your children, more than your parents, more than your friends, more than even your own life. Thou shalt love the Lord thy Muhammad with all thy heart and all thy strength and all thy money too, in fact.
And all my
Okay?
wives and my children,
Yes,
especially
because
if they're
thou shalt love
daughters.
Muhammad, because Muhammad is the only way to Allah. If you believe in Allah, it is not enough. You cannot go to heaven
No?
because, as you know, Allah stands alone. Allah needs nobody. But if you don't believe in Muhammad, you don't get to Allah. I am the way, the truth, and the way to Allah. My name is Muhammad. Understand? If you do not believe in Muhammad, Allah doesn't know you. He's never heard of
Yeah.
you. Understand?
Well, but there's no compulsion in religion as the sword comes down upon you. It's nuts.
Yeah, there are very few prosecutions for insulting Allah. I know, it's crazy. So, anyway, back to science. I just wanted to finish this, okay? There are 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, but only two science. The thing is, all these Muslims say that's not real Muslims. So I don't know. I don't know. There's 1.6 not real Muslims in the world. But only two
That's
scientists
true.
from Muslim countries have won Nobel Prizes in science, one for physics and the other for chemistry in 1909.
Mhm.
46 Muslim countries combined contribute just 1% of the world's scientific literature. Spain and India each contribute more of the world's scientific literature than all of the Islamic countries taken together. Although Spain is hardly an intellectual superpower, it translates more books in a single year than the entire Arab world has in the past 1,000 years.
Whoa.
Although there are talented scientists of Muslim origin working productively in the West, for 40 years I've not seen a single paper by a physicist or astronomer working in a Muslim country that was worth reading. We can go on and you can talk about
Mhm.
seriously, I need to do a show on Islamic science and just talk about how pathetic. These guys are supposed to be the leaders in science. Well, for instance, between 1980 and 2000, Korea granted 16,000 patents, while nine Arab countries, including Egypt, Saudi, and the UAE, granted a total of only 370, many of them registered by foreigners. Okay?
Wow.
In 1989, the US published 10,400 scientific papers that were cited, while the Arab world published only four. Leaders in science, dude, because they can tell you your sperm is produced between the top of your head and your toes. That's science.
Somewhere,
But of
somewhere
course,
around
the
there.
thing is, when they say science, they don't mean academic science. They don't mean
Yeah, that just
science that
means repeating what Allah
they
said.
mean religious science. They mean
Hmm.
the knowledge, the gnosis. And I need to do a discussion on Islam and Gnosticism. Islam is quite blatantly and explicitly Gnosticism. They don't even hide it in their own texts. Okay, but
Hmm.
somehow all of these PhD in the academic world, especially in the Islamic and I apologize for saying this, but in the Islamic apologetics world, where people go to seminaries, PhD is French for piled high and deep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
but these people have no idea what they're talking about. As I said, PhD is short for piled high and deep. Because man, so understand this is just a joke. Islamic science is a joke. Okay, I'm done. That's it, guys. I'm done. Unless you have any questions, I'm done.
No, it's it. Nicholas Paulson said there are single zip codes in the Western world that have contributed more to science and culture than the entire Muslim world.
Yes.
So pretty good fact right there.
So, guys, I hope that was enlightening and interesting. That you learned something, saw a new perspective on this.
It's yeah. It's changed my perspective, or at least given me something else to think about. You know what I mean? Um, so most people are liking it, man. They're all saying good job.
Yeah. Hey, Nicholas, I sent you an email. If you want to have a chat on Skype, you need to contact me and we'll set up a chat. It's the least I can do for you. You've been with me for a while. So, guys, if you'd like to support the channel, I do appreciate it. It actually is appreciated and goes a long way. And also, please, this guy, AT, Oz Truth Apologetics, on a scale from 1 to 10, he's not a bad guy. He's okay. Right. So if you
I'll take a
guys,
3 or 4.
his link is in the description. If you can just get down there and give him a sub as well, please. And thank you for the new subs. I appreciate all of you. For those who've been mods, I do appreciate all your support. I really do. As you know, guys, every one of my sources is public. I hide nothing. Every single reference and citation I make public. I have never not revealed the source. Okay. I provide every book, every letter, every link, every single thing is made available. It's in the description box. Nothing I've said here is not available to you exactly as I have it. Okay. Okay. DHC says still looking for that not a bad guy between 1 and 10. So yeah, no. I mean, like seriously, like for instance, I'll tell people that like actually I won't tell that joke. Never mind. So you know,
Two or both,
yeah,
not
but
today.
people, I have heard people saying that you and I make a great team, except for me. So, so yeah, guys. So anyway, so thank you for joining us for the Comedy Apologetics Hour,
Hmm.
and and I hope this was interesting. If you have any more questions, please ask. I am on Adam Seeker's Discord. It's the only Discord I'm on, and it's the only one I intend to be on. And but I'm active there, and it's a great team. So and also thanks to Adam and his team for supporting me. I really appreciate it. It's been great. Nicholas says, do you think SA and Israel cooperated to build nuclear weapons? Was that the cause of the Valley incident? I can't remember the Valley incident. I have read about it. I've forgotten. But yes, I believe there was cooperation. South Africa definitely built nuclear weapons. And look, Israel would be dead. They'd be wiped out. And I mean, Iran, you need to read the Iranian. We've read something of the Hamas Charter, okay, the Hamas
Hmm.
Constitution. It's disgusting. As you've seen, it's blatantly pro genocide. Read the Hamas Constitution, just the opening chapter, the preamble. It's not any better. Okay. So yeah, please guys, sub to AT. He's got a great channel. Okay. Now, as I said, people say we make a great team, except for me. So right, I'm done here. AT, your last word.
All right, guys. Well, I just hope everybody has a good day, good evening, whatever time it is for you. Remember that Jesus loves you and God bless you.
Yeah, guys. Thank you all for the support. Dragon, you're an admin now. And, oh, any idea? Okay, sorry. Last question. Lost and found. Any thoughts on the idea of the Rothschilds and Rockefeller sponsoring global Zionism? I have a show. My buddies. I did a series of shows with Jan Irvin, and man, it was crazy. After I did the research, it was fun. He's got a channel called Logos Media 2. Have a look at my shows on Jews and Islam. Okay, on that show, especially the ones on following the money. Um, Arab money dwarfs Israeli money. And a lot of the stories of the Rothschilds being wealthy, they were wealthy maybe in 1750, like 250 years ago. The family grew, the family lost their money. They have less money than Walmart. Okay,
Mm.
because when you had one guy who made, look, $100 back in 1750 was worth roughly $5 billion today, as you know. So he made $150 and he was the richest man in the world. Okay, awesome. That money in 2021 money is worth about 15 cents, and he's got like 1,000 siblings, but I mean family members. These, and the money had to be divided. The land was sold.
Mhm.
Seriously, these guys don't make a huge amount of money. And if you look at the amount of money the Islamic world pumps into things, good grief, it dwarfs anything Israel can do. You got to literally follow the money. I have a show on that, Logos Media 2 channel. Have a look for Jews. Just search for the word Jews on his channel, and you'll find my shows there. I need to update those and talk about that, but it's bogus. So, guys, thank you, Edward. Okay, so, but guys, we'll talk about this again. Drop the questions in the comment section, and I'll do a follow up if you want. Thank you, guys. Take care and good night.
See you guys.
God bless, guys. Take care.